to my right, David Shepard, and to my left, Houston Envik, and we have kind of a neutral moderator type person, Willis McLean. Tonight, I got a few questions for them, and my first question is for Houston. Do we need gun control?
Do we need gun control? That's a question been debated in the United States for a long time, and when you see how increasing the crime rate has gone, I think something needs to be done, and I think gun control could be helpful there. Many people say it won't help, it hasn't helped in other countries, but look at, for example, Great Britain. They have about 100 times the population of Washington, but only twice as many murders, because they have strong gun control. One of the easiest, biggest factor for when people kill people with guns, that is that they're easy, very available. They're everywhere. And but will gun control help? Well, I think if we can try anything, we should try it, because about 20,000 people gets killed by guns every single year here in the United States. Murder by guns is the number one homicide for black males, and I think something has to be done. Gun control, I've seen it work in Norway, I've seen it work in most European countries, and I think it's time to let it work here.
I have a question. Why are you for gun control? Do you have any in particular reason?
Well,
why
I'm not coming here now and saying, okay, you should do this, you should do that, because that's what we've done in Europe. I'm just telling you, we had much of the same problem just after the Second World War in Europe, with crime going up, especially with guns. And we saw that gun control worked. It got the crime rate down. And I'm not necessarily saying you should have gun control for forever, but I'm just saying use it now before it's too late, because if you continue too long and wait too long, you will find out one day it's too late, and then I guess it's only probably a civil war that would end this.
Yes, David, you are on the other side of the panel, and why are you against it?
I'm against gun control because it's taking away possible protection for people, and it's also a right of people, and I believe that gun control basically is not doing what needs to be done. I feel that the people need to be controlled. The problem is the criminals and what they're doing. I feel that we should lock up the criminals rather than the guns.
Yeah, that's nice said, but you're forgetting some very important things there, and that is the whole society is violent, and but you can't expect the police to handle everything. And when you say you want it for protection, sure, I agree with that. I'll say yes to that, but it's not that gun control I want the gun control that will take the weapons away from the criminals. There will be no problem. People want guns for hunting, fine, no problem. The only thing I want is when people want to buy a gun, they will go to a police station and they will get a sheet saying, okay, this person can buy a gun.
So what you're saying is that you want to enforce the Brady Bill. That's what the Brady Bill is.
Not really, because the Brady Bill, they say that you have 7 days waiting period, but it doesn't really say so much what happens during those 7 days. What I want, I don't say you have to have a waiting period at all. I just say you have to go through the police files, like at the gun shows. If you want the Brady Bill, you have to quit with the gun shows. I think gun shows are great, and the only thing I want to have there is that a policeman can sit there with a computer and a modem, and whenever you want to buy a gun, you go over to that policeman, get a signed document. Yes, you can buy a gun, and there you are. There won't be any so much hassle. I don't say you need so long waiting period.
Why should we go through all that to get that set up, all that money, when the truth of it is, most murders are committed by first-time murderers and would not be stopped by this system in the first place. So why should we put it into place?
That's myth number one for gun controllers here. I have here an article, and they clearly states here they done if it's from National Review, October 21st, 1991, and they had a review over the statistics, and they found out here that the overwhelming majority of murders are career criminals, people with lifelong history of violence, sometimes irrational, sometimes compulsive. This is it's the typical murder that commits murders here.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, I have something to say to that then. If that is the case, would you not figure that these career criminals would be able to get guns other ways?
Sure, but the question there is, how come it's so easy for them to get guns? Because there are so many guns around. How come it's so easy for them to get assault weapons? Because you can buy it in the mail. And what I say, put some restrictions there. When you say you want police to protect yourself, don't you think you should give the police at least the right to go out and without people being able to buy bullets that will go right through the bulletproof vests?
Okay. Don't mean to carry on to stop you, but Willis, you've been listening here to both of them. You're kind of a neutralist here. You can go either way. Do you have any comments on this?
Well, I can see the reasons for both sides of the argument, but I think one of the things that Houston is related to is the fact that gun control or stopping criminals from having guns. Dave talked about stopping the criminals and not the guns. It's a good idea, but our jails are already overloaded. And from a personal standpoint, what we're seeing is that my feeling is that gun control is going to end up in the same shape that most other laws are, and that is a good way for attorneys to make money, and that's about all. Because we already have laws against Uzis, and they're being used on a day-to-day basis. We have laws against we have laws against having guns in the schools. And if the law is what we need, then why does Milwaukee have to have metal detectors at the doors of the school?
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
And may I also say there another thing that I think would be the best gun control you could have in the United States. That is, have similar laws, have the same laws in every single state, because now you can some ammunition which is probably not which isn't allowed to buy in Wisconsin, you can go to Illinois and buy it there, and that way you would have equal laws. So you like some ammunition that will go right through a bulletproof vest, like a lot of cops get killed by. And that in some states it's not legal, in other states it's fully legal. And
so you want it to be gun control to go through all the states and be equal throughout the states, not. Like,
yes, I think
just like the death penalty. The death penalty. Some people want that throughout the states, although it's only legal in so many.
Well, not necessarily, because what the most profit would that be? That will be that, you know, if Wisconsin said okay, guns are not legal, but Minnesota has it fully legal, then people will just go over to Minnesota and buy it there. But the same thing I will do with ammunition. When some ammunition is not illegal in one state, I think it shouldn't be legal in any state.
Did you have something to say?
I'd just like to say that I agree.
That's fine.
I think there should be a national policy on guns, and there's already plenty of legislation out there between all the states for guns. There's lots of it. I don't know that we need this added gun control, so-called. I agree. Something needs to be done about the violence. This is one of the most violent countries. Why? I don't think it's because we have guns readily available. I don't think that's the reason. I think there's other reasons out there for the violence. Look at our television. Our television is just full of violence. Where does that come from? I don't know. But I don't think guns are the problem of this country. I think there's people in this country that are the problems.
Well, you named television. Maybe we can go and look at the other way. We have people get killed by car accidents are much higher than guns. but still, no one was against any form of control on cars. Everybody says that okay, no problem. We can have control on cars. We can have license plates. We can have registration numbers on the engines parts, and no one's against that. And I'm not asking for anything more. I think we should have a registration on guns. Guns shouldn't be kept like it's not just a toy. And that's another thing too. You talked about how crime can come. That also comes with how the whole society has started working. Before, when a person got a gun, when a boy got a gun, he started maybe 7 years old, got a BB gun, then went up to 22, maybe to a shotgun. But what do we see now? We see people in the ghettos and people in the big cities when they maybe 13 years old, they get an assault rifle. You can't base respect for guns that way. And
Yes.
another thing you might be able to do to get the gun control, let's say anyone who wants to buy a gun have to go through a gun safety course first.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
well,
nice.
That should get us started here. I'm sorry that we have to move on, but right now we're going to go to a video which was we recently interviewed Alice Clausing, and now we'll go to her.
Turn it up.
It's rather interesting how a newly elected official has to develop all these positions. My position on gun control is
something,
that
talk
I'm
more
against
to
it
the mic.
because I
Thank you.
think that it goes against one of our
Is that
basic
what
rights,
is that
and
what
that
you're
is
trying to
the
tell me?
right to bear arms.
Yeah, speak up a little bit and talk to
The issue
her.
really comes down to our freedom to choose.
Uh,
And when we start restricting
Maybe about 8 minutes, maybe.
who must register guns, I think that we're taking away some of the basic
Move the
rights.
mic back just a little bit towards you, too.
About 8 minutes.
What? I don't know. I don't have any.
Probably about 8 minutes, you say, Justin? 8 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
Just her action is because if you get this camera looking at Dave.
I think that camera should be on those two. That camera on
That's no fair. My name hasn't been up on screen yet.
Yes, it is.
Right.
That's because you've been on. Well, because when this camera is shooting Dave, who is looking over there, it doesn't look as
fun.
good.
No.
When this is looking at that cross angle, it's sort of looking at the camera.
Will always be able to find firearms to buy or to steal.
You're right.
And so
Oh yeah, I know where I can go to get a firearm anytime I want.
Right.
My gun kept me.
Well, you know, I can buy one for like $50.
Yeah, you
Don't
can get
tell
them
him.
anywhere.
We know it's, we know.
Just don't catch it.
We know that.
Perhaps we could
I don't go out, you know.
one are gun showers.
You know, if there's
There are
anything
showers
that I need,
sold
that's right.
throughout the country. It's a favorite pastime. In fact, my husband
In fact, my husband.
has a number of
Your husband?
collector of guns.
Da, da, da.
It's a pastime for many people to collect guns. But this is one example.
You're doing good,
how
PJ.
Thank you.
I did that all by myself. So you're telling me twice.
put down cash and have absolutely.
I think I'm kind of falling on my face here.
And so I
I just need to get one good point when you come back. That's it. I think I'm gonna hit on that there's no way you're gonna stop them from getting guns. Absolutely no way.
I'm gonna ask you if you have any comments on the Brady Bill. What you think of the Brady Bill.
I don't know a whole lot about the Brady Bill, but
I'll ask you, and then you.
No, I
I'll
don't.
ask him.
PJ, you could just kind of like you research this so you know what
Yeah,
it is.
I'll
You could just
just-
run down.
I'll listen to him. I'll listen to him, and then I'll add stuff in if he doesn't say it.
Well, I was thinking, you know, okay, the Brady Bill says da 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 da. How do you feel about that? You could just read it off so we'd all be fresh with it.
I should have
I
brought my
haven't seen the
papers
Brady
in.
Bill. Have you?
Go get him. Have somebody go get him.
They're at home.
48,000 people died on our highways from auto accidents in 1987. And we're not outlawing the automobile, and we do register the automobile.
Oh, you
And there are
cheated,
many,
you.
many other examples. I feel the best way to
You taped this, didn't
control
you?
guns is through education. When I deal with a problem, I normally go to the source of the problem.
But Dave was here too, so.
People are the ones that make guns, and people are the ones that misuse guns.
She just said that they don't outlaw
And so what I
automobiles.
like
And
to do is to see,
How did your taping of the district attorney turn out?
of the laws that we
Good.
have. Right now,
except for we didn't have a tape. And there was no sound. So the second time it was great.
Yeah.
And there is, I believe, a 48-hour waiting period. In order to
Is that
sell
true, Wills?
the firearm, they must
48-hour
call
waiting
gas
period now?
and get a clearance concerning the person that is
Depending on
applying
the type, I believe.
to
I
buy
think
I don't-
handguns are 7 days
firearm.
by
And so
federal.
in the state of
But muzzleloaders
Wisconsin,
are not
we
waiting
have
period at all.
a 48-hour waiting period.
The Flinter law, say something
There
about
are
that.
also notifications done.
I will also make
on-
some comments for
on the
this.
federal level. And so I think a lot of this has to do with people being properly informed and then following through with what the law is.
Should I ask? Should I just ask if? Should I start with Dave and ask if he's got any comments on?
And the use of firearms.
You're the moderator.
This is the way the state statute goes.
I've never done
It's
this before.
Act 139.
That's okay, you're doing good.
If you leave a loaded firearm within the reach or easy access of a child, you may be fined or imprisoned, or both, if the child improperly discharges, possesses, or exhibits the firearm. Any person who violates sub 1 may be fined not more than $500 or imprisoned.
If for comments, and we'll start with you, Dave.
Well, I guess I'd just like to say that, as you saw in this presentation, there are plenty of legislations out there, and there are other ways to take control other than gun control. I think that education is a big part. I feel that knowing a gun, how it's used, and how to respect it is more important than, say, laws about it. I think people should know what's going on. If all they know is what they see on television, they're going to think that every time that you pick up a gun, you're going to have to shoot somebody. It just doesn't really make sense. They don't always know all the truth about guns. And I think that education is the big key here.
Thank you for your comment. Now we'll go to Willis.
Okay, I have a couple comments on it. She talked about gun shows, and with proper gun controls, there probably can be gun shows, and guns can be bought and sold. I see that gun shows are a large part of our heritage also. But the point I caught was the state youth gun law. And you're going to be fined or imprisoned. And that's what this statute says. But in fact, when we take these, when we try to punish these people, when we catch somebody in these laws, the first offense usually ends up with a probation or a suspended sentence or a $100 fine. And if I'm going to be fined $100 for it, and somebody else's child shoots himself with my gun, and it's only going to cost me $100, am I going to really think about it? Now, having guns around the house all the time, and on many occasions a loaded one, yes, I am. But the average citizen is not going to worry about a $100 fine. You'll notice that the poaching of deer went down considerably when the minimum fine went to $1,000. And if you're going to have controls, we have to enforce them. And jail sentences aren't the answer. Hitting people financially is probably a better answer, or if it's a problem of crime, then education is an answer.
Thank you.
Houston?
Houston, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments there. Again, with the gun shows, that would not be a problem really if you just put up with the computer system. Then they also talk here. Dave said that with the kids that just see the TV and say that's what guns are. The problem, Dave, is that many million kids do that. Many kids don't get a childhood like probably you and me had, Many kids grow up, the only friend they have is the TV. Many kids grow up in a neighborhood which is so filled of violence. Like it's like a plague coming in there. And those kids, they're the one we should help, and they're the one we should give a future. We should give a future in peace. We should give a future without having to worry to get shot every day. Now, of course,
Now,
some people say here are against that. Okay, but just move over to some other things here.
Well, I
Then-
gotta
Just a
ask you
second.
question.
Now, did
Well,
you
can I-
catch that on the video when Alice Clausing mentioned that she would recommend some elementary school courses on guns so they knew what they were? How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that I don't see that as much at the school system. I think you should have just a course for anyone who wants to buy a gun, even if you're 18, because a lot of them don't know how to treat a gun. I think you should have, when you when a hunt, you get a certificate saying you have passed the hunter's safety course. I think it should be the same thing with weapons safety for any kind of gun. Then over to some other thing here. Then Alice Clausing was talking about people being properly informed about the gun laws. People aren't informed. We have to fix that. You have a lot of gun control laws. That's fine, but when no one cares about it, no one really do anything about it. That doesn't go. And another thing, when a lot of those people that are pro and against gun control, they say we should just keep the people that do the offenses in prison. Well, I have some numbers here. Last year, in Washington, D.C., 40,000 people were arrested for serious crimes. 10,000 was jailed. That leaves 30,000. Do you know how much it will cost to put all of them in jail? The rest 30,000, $15 billion. If you want to pay for that, you have to accept higher taxes. And then they also say here.
Houston, just a minute here. I have a question on. You said something earlier. You said give these young kids a future, and that they won't have to be shot at every day. I want to ask you how would you give them a future, by enforcing the gun control law?
Well, I think that guns and young children, often doesn't mix. I've seen in many countries in Europe how that has worked, and well, I guess the most important thing there is, I think kids should be able to grow up without having to be afraid of being shot. And a lot of people will say, well, that's nice said, but we can't do anything about it. Well, look, as I said again, Great Britain, they have much more about 100 times the population of
Okay,
Washington.
but this is about America.
Yeah, but then I also have here. You can see how it happens in other countries with gun control. United States is.
I'd just like to
can
know.
I just finish it? United States homicide rate with guns are 50 times higher than the rates in England, Denmark, Germany, and Japan. That shows how much higher that rate is. And do you really want to gamble on your children's future?
My question is, how can you stop in America all these used gun sales? You can pick up a gun almost anywhere for relatively low prices. Private individuals, you can always find a gun. And actually some people actually make their own muzzle-loader guns, which you can call a gun. It shoots a bullet. So I guess you want to control that too. How are you going to do that? If people can make their own guns, how are you going to control that?
Most of the criminal acts that are committed with guns, they are committed with assault weapons, with handguns, and very very few with muzzle loaders.
Okay.
And
now my question is-
how I want to control that? Yeah, I think you should need a registration of the guns. Every gun has a registration number on it, and that number, I think that should go into with the police. When you buy a gun, as I said, you get a permission from the police.
Well,
And then that number will go into the police computer.
Well,
So
isn't it when you buy a gun? Isn't the number on the gun some way brought into the police? Somehow they know that
Well,
somebody owns a gun.
if I have had a rifle with a registration number and I sold it to you, probably the police wouldn't know about it. And the point is that every single sale the police will know about it. So like I once saw the Norwegian police computer files on we just picked up one single gun,
Okay,
and you could see every single owner down there, and that will help a lot. Maybe Willis say something about that too.
Go ahead. Do you have anything?
Well, you brought into a point that I had to bring up, and that is the fact that we are a democracy, more so than any other country in the world. And with that democracy, we have freedoms, the individual freedoms. And one of the individual freedoms that's being expressed right now in police work is the fact that those computer files are secret. They are confidential. I cannot check your driver's license and check your driving record and give you a copy of that. I can maybe tell you what's on it, but I cannot give you a copy of your own driving record because that is confidential. And we're keeping, there are new restrictions being placed on the criminal files. There are some states where it is possible for individuals in business to run some parts of criminal histories. It's not possible. We can run criminal histories only for criminal purposes and in some cases for employment purposes, but that's usually by security agencies or things like that. So your type of control sounds fine, except that in a democracy it won't work because people have too many freedoms. It's the getting back to the First Amendment and Second Amendment. You were talking about attack rifles. Well, the Second Amendment guarantees us, in a way, the right to have those because it says that the states can have an armed militia, and that is what a militia would use. But the Second Amendment does not, in my opinion, give individuals the right to have weapons, an absolute right to have weapons. It gives the state the right to arm a militia, similar to, I believe, Norway. I worked with Norwegian troops for 2 years, and it's my understanding that the Norwegian troops have the guns in their home, and it is part of it is issued to them by the government. And that is guaranteed under the Constitution.
Yeah, and you said that you thought it was a democratic right. I consider Denmark a democratic country, absolutely. I'd consider Germany probably one of the world's most democratic countries. I consider England one of the real democratic countries. And I see nothing against democracy, that criminals shouldn't have the right to get guns. If you just get out of jail from armed robbery, why should you be allowed to go and buy a rifle? What I think about that is, it won't harm anyone. Everybody will have the same right of getting a gun as you have now. The only difference is that the police will know you have the gun, and that will help the police enormously. The only difference is that if someone finds a gun next to a body, they can just check up the serial number and find out who owns the gun.
Well,
And
Yeah. Well,
wait.
okay.
I'd just like to say that stopping murders is what I want to do. If gun control did it, I'd be for gun control. But it's not going to do it, so I don't think it's worthwhile. If you go back in history, what about Cain and Abel, if you are familiar with the story?
Yeah.
Murder, how quick into human life. Did they have guns back then? No. Murder still took place. Murder's been taking place for thousands of years. Now, I don't see that stopping gun control is going to stop murders. I believe you've stated before that in your country, only a very small percentage of the murders that took place had guns involved. So I'm saying that you stop the guns, that's not necessarily going to stop the murders. Murders can occur with all kinds of things around the house even.
Yeah, but
It's not going to stop the murders, so What are we trying to do
just,
here?
Just a couple of things there. Comment on what he said. I told him, yeah, Norway has about the same population as Wisconsin, but they only have about in 1985 they had the highest murder rate ever, and they had 65 murders. Most of those murders that was traffic accidents. And what he said, it's always been murder, so why should we really fight it?
Well, you said-
there's also always been hunger, so why should we help the people of Somalia? It's a humane thing to do. We should give our children a safer world. And if you don't think that's a good cause to work for, okay, then I'll go alone. But I think this is a real good cause. I think our children is some of the most important things we have, and I think we should protect that with all we have.
Well, you said that most of the murders committed in your country were by car murders. Well, they're not trying to ban the automobile, are they? Because the automobile is killing many people too.
Yes, the point is what you mean with a car murder. If I drove drunk and killed someone, I will be sentenced for murder.
Yo, yeah,
if,
but
if I was driving recklessly and hit someone, I would be sentenced for murder.
well, why?
But there's a difference between that and if I go home, pick up a gun, aim it at a person, and shoot him.
Well, that's. You said if you were sentenced for murder for drinking and driving, then why don't they just outlaw alcohol? That way you won't be drunk and then drive and then kill somebody.
Because there's nothing wrong with alcohol. Alcohol doesn't kill.
There's
It's
nothing
the,
wrong
it's the
with
mixing.
Guns don't kill either.
No, but
right.
that's not
It's
the point.
people that
The
pull
point
the trigger
is
that are doing the
you
job.
have a lot of guns that are made for killing people.
Like,
And if someone made a car that was made to kill people, I would definitely try to outlaw it. There are assault weapons on the streets now. There are Uzis that can shoot. I don't know how many shots they shoot in a second, and they're all made just to for the own purpose, killing people. And I think we don't need those guns. You don't need a Uzi for hunting. We don't really need it. And
you're right there. We don't need a Uzi for hunting, and we don't have Uzis for hunting. In Wisconsin, which is a very high percentage of the Wisconsin population hunts, then we don't use Uzis here. They're outlawed in Wisconsin. We can't use Uzis to hunt. We use, I believe, the highest caliber we can use is, well, I know that we can use the 38 caliber. At 357, these are pistols here. And then the highest rifle is, I don't know, Will?
50.
A 50. And those aren't Uzis. They're not fully automatic weapons. They
I
can
know
be,
that, but
they can't be.
like David says here also that, and the anti-gun control, they say, well, criminals will also always get weapons. What's the survey here saying that 28% of prison inmates say they bought firearms over the counter, and I say 28%. That helps a lot. If we get-
Okay, but is that saying that they couldn't have gotten them anywhere else?
No, and the point I want to make is that the only way they get them is over the counter. What I want the police to know who has guns. I don't think that deprives you of any freedom.
Well, here's where you messed up here for a minute. You messed up here. You said before that if they seen a gun lying next to a person's body, they could just pick it up, look at the serial number, and see who owned the gun. Well, you just said to David that you wanted the police to know who owned the guns. Then, I don't really get what you meant there, because earlier you said that all the police would have to do is check the number and then they would know who owned the gun. And now you're trying to say that you want the people who are owning the gun to give the number to the police, which the police already have. So.
No, I think you misunderstood there. What I say is that when you want to buy a gun, if you wanted to buy a gun from me, for example, you give that serial number to the police when you buy the gun. When you get a sheet with it where you write in the serial number of the gun, and then you go to police. They say, okay, it's okay, you can buy a gun, stamp it, and then you can buy it. And I also think another thing we should have there is illegal guns. Guns, if you are caught with the gun where you would remove the serial number, or guns that are not legal, I think there should be much more bigger fines on that. And I think that would help.
Okay. Willis, do you have anything to say?
Well, it all gets, a lot of it gets back to the knowledge of the laws and what controls we have. And as you said, we have controls at this time. We have laws, but what are the laws? Who knows what the laws are? The average citizen on the street doesn't know what the laws are. The average citizen of the state of Wisconsin can carry a firearm down the street in a holster without a problem. But if he puts his coat on over the top of it, then it's illegal. If he puts the weapon in a vehicle and drives the 5 miles to cross the border, he's in a state where he has to have a permit to carry it, to transport it. So what we need, if we're talking about control, is we need some type of federal, which we all hate to have as federal legislation, but we do need some kind of a federal control over the laws on some of these things. Otherwise, people just don't know what's going on. We had a good case in point here a couple weeks ago. An ordinary can of mace, which is sold in the Twin Cities in sporting goods stores, in convenience stores, at counters all over. It's sold all over Minnesota. It's illegal to carry this in the state of Wisconsin unless you're a peace officer. That's the difference in the laws. And unfortunately, we would probably see the innocent person who transported a gun illegally into another state get a larger penalty than the person who is illegally transporting it in his own state. Just the way the laws seem to work.
Yeah.
That's true. I'd just like to say, if you have any callers, anybody has any comments or any questions, just call in and they'll put the number on the screen for you here pretty soon. Right, boys? Thank you. And now, Dave, you've been sitting over here listening to them. I don't know if you have anything to say. Do you?
Well, I guess basically what I've said before is that if you find some way that will decrease the violence in America, I'm all for it. But I just don't see how this is going to work. I don't see how you can stop criminals from committing crimes. You have this registration. Now, is there going to be a law-abiding criminal that would be willing to murder somebody, but wouldn't be willing to steal a gun?
Sure.
I think somebody who would murder would be quite likely the kind of person who would also steal a gun, so therefore all this legislation you go through just might result in more crime, more guns stolen.
But it would help to know where the gun came from. If someone was murdered with a pistol and they know where it was murdered, where it was stolen from, that would help them, because then they would have more clues to find who did the murder.
That's already in place. The gun stores already have the numbers registered, and when people go to buy guns, as you saw in the Alice Clausen tape, people have to fill out the forms and submit that to the government.
Yes, but that does not count during gun shows. The same thing, then you can buy, during gun shows, you can buy lots of weapons without having to wait 48 hours or without any papers. Also, when you buy guns from friends, and that's the kind of thing I mean.
I gotta ask
all
you a
the
question,
guns
Yusufin.
have to be.
Do you want gun control on just handguns? Because I noticed that you've been talking about like Uzis and pistols. Are you trying to say that you only want gun control on handguns? Because
No, I think if you just put it on handguns, then you'll get lots of these different guns. It's half a rifle, half a handgun, and there'll be problems finding that out. What I think you should have control over all guns, but it's also more important that when you see handguns, they're behind 75% of the homicides with guns. 75%, and I think it's important to get some more control over them. they're easy to carry around, and they're very available, and that's why I think so many gets murdered by handguns. But I also think it's important to get rifles, shotguns, because that's those guns are behind the rest of that, the 25%. And as I said, I want a registration. I want everybody to know how a gun works before they buy it, and I guess that's the most important thing. When we talked here about back to something else, when we talked about how we can enforce the laws, an FBI report came out and said that murder is primarily a social problem over which law enforcement has little or no control. And if you want a safer society, like I do, if you want less crime, less violence, less murders, I think we have to change the whole society. Gun control is a step in the right direction, but it's not all the steps. We need lots of new things here.
I agree. Change society, but I don't see how putting restrictions on guns is going to help the society.
Yes, I believe Willis had a question.
I have a question for Houston, and that is, what happened? The largest killer in this nation is alcohol, and what happened when we had controls on alcohol?
What happened when you had controls on alcohol is just my point with gun control here. You said absolutely no alcohol, but people want alcohol just the same as people want guns. Law-abiding citizens was the people who was most behind the drinking. They were the one who created the market. So what I want to do, I don't say no guns, because that wouldn't help. Then we'll have smuggling from both Canada and Mexico. I say we should have control over guns. The same thing as you have here. You have control over alcohol, more or less.
You say that the United States has control over alcohol?
Not in that form, but it's like you have an age limit.
He hasn't been to one of your beer parties.
But you have an age limit on both beer and liquor, and that's the point. You need a license to sell it. You need a license to bartend, and
well, yes. Yeah, you're right there. You are right. We do need a license to sell liquor and all that stuff too, but you also have to be 21 to get in bars, and that's just like, this is gun control.
Since when?
Since when? He says, since when do you need to be 21 to get in a bar? Teenagers that have beards can get into bars. You know, some bars around here don't even check you. And I'd like to say another thing, that if you go back, Willis said that most of the homicides are by alcohol. Well, that's very true, but then if we talk about alcohol, then we'd be getting onto a different subject, like the drinking age, like that. And
I was just using it as, I was just saying, this is a major problem, and granted, we have all these controls, and we have these licenses to sell, but we also have a license to sell guns. We also have age limits on buying guns. And
by the way, what is the age limit to buy a pistol?
pistol is 18.
What about a rifle or a shotgun?
I'm not really sure, because I believe that you can buy that at almost any age.
Well, I know for one thing that you can't buy.
Gun stores won't sell them to you.
Yeah, at certain. Yeah, you have to be a certain age to buy ammunition for them.
But you have to be 18 to buy ammunition for handguns.
But and there again, I'd like to go back to that with licenses. You know, you need a license to drive a car. Why shouldn't that license, when you have that shows that you've gone through a course, you know how to operate a car, you know the traffic rules. Why shouldn't you just have the same kind of a license for buying a gun? When you have that license, you know how a gun works, you know how to safely handle it.
So you're not trying to say, well, I know that you're trying to say enforce gun control, but another thing that you've been trying the whole night to get by is that we should have a gun course. And then if we have a gun course, then it would be all right to sell the guns in stores without a waiting period.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think that if they had a gun course, that it would be okay to sell guns in a gun store without a waiting period?
No. Well, the waiting period doesn't have to be long. The point is, when people come with, for example, their driver's license, that can be checked with the police, and they can say yes or no, this person can buy a gun. Or even I think the best thing would be if you had people, if you want to buy a gun, you have a sheet saying your name, your social security number, all of that stuff, and then you go to the police. They check your record, and if you haven't done any criminal action, you should be allowed to buy a gun. And then the police would just give it sign it and stamp it, and then you can go buy a gun. I think many people are against the waiting period, but I say if you have to have a gun on the hour, then something is wrong.
Well, I kind of agree with you there.
Yeah.
But why do you want? I just don't understand the part. I have a question for you. Why and how will gun control solve our crime problems?
Okay. I go back and answer that a bit too. Dave has been asking a lot here. He can't see how gun control can help. In Germany, just after the Second World War, there were guns everywhere. It's much more than here. It was, everywhere. And not only handguns and rifles, that was anti-tank weapons and hand grenades.
Yeah.
And what happened there, they had an enormous boost of crime. And they enforced a very strong gun control, saying that they put a date, every single gun you have at home have to be registered. If you get caught with an unregistered gun, you get a year in prison.
Yeah.
And that way the gun control got down the murder rate so much. And
well, sorry, Houston. It looks like we're almost running out of time here, so I'm just gonna ask Willis one last question. Do you think that gun control will solve our crimes? Really short. Wrap up.
Gun control, no. Education of people, along with enforcement of the present laws, and educating our children, will.
Okay, thank you. Dave, what do you think?
I think that people should be able to own guns and use guns freely and not have to have the government knowing at all times exactly who has the guns and what guns. I don't think that the government knowing that will really make a difference. If we could get by with police protection, that would really be great. But the police do the best they can. They can't be everywhere. There's been cases where it's been a bystander who happens to be carrying a weapon at the time that stops crime, and I think that's good. And I think there'd be less crime if there would be more people out there willing to stand up to criminals.
So, David just answered a question here. He said what I got out of his statement is that he thinks there should be more peace officers, which I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I got out of that. But I guess, Houston, you have a last comment?
yeah, I also think people should use guns freely. They should use them safe. They should be educated, and we have a problem here. We have to. The problem is not only but with guns. It's what comes around guns. We have problems with alcohol, with drugs, and guns are often very close into that. And we should try to solve that problem. And I think gun control, some form of gun control, could help. Why? It has helped in a lot of other countries.
Yes. And thank you, Houston, for that comment. Well, I'm PJ Taylor, your host for the Issues of the 90s. Tonight's issue was gun control, which, if you were listening and watching, I hope that we somehow helped you understand gun control and got some of the panelists' ideas on how to solve it. We're out of time now, so good night, folks. And like I said, I'm PJ Taylor for WRTV, and Thank you for watching.